Hola a todos! Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going upside down to show you how to headstand in 4 easy steps. Let's go. The first step is to identify where on your head the weight will go when you're upside down. So a cool trick I learned for this is to take your hand and the butt of your palm, if you place it in between your eyebrows and then extend your hand back, roughly where your middle finger falls is the crown of your head. And this is the hardest part of your skull and where you want to focus on putting your weight when you go upside down. Now the term headstand is a little bit misleading because when we go upside down, we don't want to place much weight at all on our head, even though it is nice and solid, because it can be a little bit unsafe for the neck. So you want to think about, even though you're in a headstand, placing the majority of your weight in your arms and supporting yourself with the strength of your shoulders. And that leads us nicely into step number 2, which is choosing your arm position for your headstand. There are 3 that I want to highlight in today's video in increasing difficulty. The first would be the traditional cradle position, where you interlace your fingers and then place your head just inside that nice cradle created by your hands. The second one would be hands flat with your head here, kind of furthest from your fingers. And the third is a tripod headstand. Now I'd encourage you to try out all 3 of these arm positions because it's important just to first get upside down and get comfortable with being in that inverted position, because it's not our normal position and there's a lot of things going on. So it's just important that you get somewhat comfortable being upside down. And 2, these arm positions are important to establish a base and confidence for later arm balances to come, such as the forearm stand and crow. The next step deals with the cues you want to focus on once you're upside down. So even though it's called a headstand, most of our attention is going to be focused on what's happening in our arms. So you want to work to pull the elbows towards one another once you're upside down, keeping them in line with your shoulders, and then working to depress the shoulders down the back by pushing the elbows as hard as you can into the mat. Now I know we're starting here with headstand, but if you're looking down the line into the future of your arm balancing career, you can think about pushing your elbows so hard into the floor that you could lift the head up and come into forearm stand. So I really don't want you to have much, if any, weight on your head. Now I know a lot of people don't have any idea of what's happening within their scapula or how to isolate the muscles around the shoulder blade. So a few drills that you can try are protractions and retractions in tabletop, or in high plank, or even in downward facing dog. Again, just to establish that mind-muscle connection and to strengthen that area so that once you do go upside down, you know exactly how to cue pushing the elbows into the floor and strengthening through the shoulders to support you in your headstand. At the end of this video, we're going to cover the most important don'ts in your headstand, things to absolutely avoid so you don't, break your neck. And our last step in today's video has to deal with getting into the headstand with control, ideally floating up like a beautiful butterfly. At the beginning of my headstand journey, things didn't look pretty. I was not floating up like a beautiful butterfly. I was flailing my legs about, trying at any cost to catch the balance for a few seconds before inevitably falling on my face or another part of my body. And if I did manage to stick the balance for a few seconds, my shape was by no means straight like it should be in a headstand. It was, more often than not, I had a banana back and was shaking because things were not controlled. So as is the goal with most of these videos on my channel, I want you to learn from my stupidity, learn from my mistakes, and practice in a safe way to avoid those falls and to stick your headstand from the beginning. So in order to give you the best shot at floating into your headstand, what you have to work on is actually flexibility of your hamstrings and your core compression. But you may be thinking, my hamstrings are on my legs, so what does that have to do with being in a headstand? I need strong core, balance, and strong shoulders in order to stay in that inverted position, which is absolutely true. You are right, good students. I will provide drills in the later part of this video to strengthen all of those areas, the shoulders and the core. But more often than not, when you're getting into the headstand, you need to have a deep forward fold, which means flexible hamstrings. And the more flexible your hamstrings and the stronger your core compression is, the more likely you are to float beautifully up into the headstand and stick it with control. One more thing that's important to touch on here is the leg position you choose when you go upside down. Because in my experience, they are not all created equal, meaning that some are much more difficult to find balance in than others. So while the traditional straight headstand may look beautiful, I think it's actually the most difficult to master because it requires the most balance and core stability. So my recommendation for you is that if you're just starting out and you're still working to master the balance and the core compression and all of the other cues that I've mentioned thus far in the video, that you practice with a few different leg positions to find which one suits you. So the two easiest that I found when starting my headstand journey were the stag leg and the wide leg. My preferred position is the wide-legged stance because it allows me to work on the cue of hollowing out the belly rather than getting that banana back, and because you can use the legs wide as kind of a scale to help you balance up there. Now I want to talk about falling because it's important that before you start practicing that you have an exit strategy. And by that I mean before you even go upside down, choose whether you're going to fall to the left or to the right and then stick with that. Make that your falling side always. You can do this without even going into the full headstand. Just practice going on for your head and then kicking your feet off to one side. It's important that you become comfortable with falling because you are going to be doing it a lot in the beginning. Though if this scares you, the second thing I would suggest you try is practicing against a wall where you're going to have more control over the movement. If you're choosing to practice this way, I would suggest facing the wall and then walking your feet up, working to bring one leg at a time over your hips. This will serve to, one, give you more control in the movement, and if you have a fear of falling, this is a great option. And two, work to get a little bit more comfortable shifting your weight into your arms. And when learning inversions, I think the wall is one of our best friends, because if you feel yourself start to fall, you can always fall into the wall, which is often much less scary than falling back onto your neck. And that's going to do it for today's tutorial. Thank you all so much for joining. And if you enjoyed this video, then click here to see more tutorials. And don't forget to subscribe to join our beautiful family. I upload new videos every single week. So wishing you all the best of luck on your journey towards headstand. Take care, and I'll see you back here very, very soon. Ciao.